The conference hall stretched wide and tall, built to hold representatives from 47 different alien species. Heron stood at the center podium, her hands gripping the edges so tightly that her knuckles had turned white. Her skin, normally a soft blue that glowed gently in the dark, had faded to a dull gray. Among her people, the Veilans, this color meant only one thing: despair. She had been speaking for nearly an hour. Her voice, once strong and clear, now cracked with exhaustion and emotion. Around her, the alien delegates sat in their designated sections, some in chairs, some on platforms suited to their unique body types. Very few were looking at her anymore. "Please," Heron said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We are not asking for much. Just help us survive. Our sun is dying faster than any scientist predicted. The radiation storms grow worse each day. In 3 months, maybe 4, our planet will be completely uninhabitable. We have nowhere else to go." She pulled up a holographic display that showed Vela Prime, her homeworld. The planet looked beautiful in the image, covered in silver forests and purple oceans, but the data streaming beside it told a different story. Radiation levels were climbing. Temperatures were becoming extreme. The protective atmosphere was breaking down. "We need ships to evacuate our people," Heron continued, "or technology to shield our world, or even just land on another planet where we can build new homes. We have 3 million people. 3 million lives that will end if no one helps us." In the front row, Speaker Vrelnoth sat motionless. He was a Krellian, a species that had dominated galactic politics for over 1,000 years. His 4 eyes were half closed and his scaled face showed no emotion. He had not spoken a single word during her entire presentation. Heron looked around the room, making eye contact with as many delegates as she could. Some looked away. Others stared back with what might have been pity, but nobody spoke up in support. "The Galactic Council was created to protect all sentient species," Heron said. "That is what the Charter says. That is what you all agreed to. We are not asking for charity. We are asking for the basic right to survive." Finally, Speaker Vrelnoth activated his microphone. His voice was deep and cold. "The Council recognizes the difficult situation facing the Velan species. However, we must consider the practical realities. The cost of relocating 3 million individuals would require resources from multiple member species. The burden would be significant." "We will work," Heron interrupted. "We will pay back every credit, every resource. Give us time and we will." "Furthermore," Vrelnoth continued as if she had not spoken, "the Velan territory holds no strategic value to the Council. Your species has contributed little to galactic trade or defense. While your situation is unfortunate, the Council must prioritize resources for matters that affect the greater good of all member species." Heron felt something break inside her chest. The greater good? We are talking about 3 million lives, children, families, an entire civilization. How is that not part of the greater good? A delegate from the Thurian species raised one of his many tentacles. "If I may speak," he said in a buzzing voice. "The Thurians sympathize with your situation. However, we cannot commit our resources to this endeavor. We have our own economic challenges." Another delegate spoke up. "The cost is simply too high for the benefit." "Benefit?" Heron could not believe what she was hearing. "This is not about benefit. This is about right and wrong. The Council operates on practical considerations," Vrelnoth said. "We cannot save every species that faces natural disasters. Your sun's decay is a cosmic event, not something caused by any member species. Therefore, it falls outside the scope of Council responsibility." One by one, other delegates began to voice their agreement. The same reasons, repeated in different ways. Too expensive. No strategic value. Not our responsibility. Natural disasters are not our concern. Heron stood at the podium, listening to her people's death sentence being delivered in calm, bureaucratic language. Her skin had turned almost black now, the Velan sign of grief and loss. "So this is how it ends," she said quietly. "This is what the Great Galactic Council has become. A group of politicians who can watch an entire species die because it is not convenient to save them." She looked directly at Vrelnoth. When my people are gone, when there are no more Valons in this galaxy, I hope you remember this day. I hope every species in this room remembers that they chose this. You had the power to help and you chose not to. Vrelnoth did not react. The Council will now vote on the Valon aid petition. All in favor, activate your voting indicator. Hyarin watched the massive display board behind the speaker's platform. It showed 47 voting positions, one for each member species. She watched and waited, hoping against hope that at least some would vote yes, that someone would show compassion. Not a single indicator turned green. 47 red lights glowed on the board, 47 species saying no. The vote is complete, Vrelnoth announced. The petition is denied. The Valon delegation may exit through the rear entrance. Hyarin did not move immediately. She stood there, staring at the red lights, trying to process what had just happened. 47 different species with all their advanced technology and vast resources, and not one would help her people survive. She finally turned and walked toward the exit. Her legs felt heavy, as if she were moving through deep water. Behind her, she could hear the delegates already moving on to the next item on their agenda. They had already forgotten about the Valons. In the hallway outside, Hyarin collapsed against the wall. She had prepared for this moment, but the reality was so much worse than she had imagined. She needed to contact Taeyang back on Vela Prime. He was their lead scientist and he had been working on emergency evacuation plans. But they both knew the truth. With their limited ships and resources, they could save maybe 200,000 people. The rest would die. She thought about her daughter, only 6 years old, playing in their garden that very morning. She thought about her parents who had lived their whole lives on Vela Prime. She thought about the billions of stories, the art, the music, the history of her people that would be lost forever. The Galactic Council had spoken. The Valons were alone, and in 3 months they would be extinct. Hyarin's communicator buzzed. It was a message from Taeyang. What happened? Did they agree to help? She stared at the message for a long time before she could bring herself to reply. Her fingers moved slowly across the display as she typed. They said no. All of them. We are on our own. She sent the message and closed her eyes. Somewhere in the building she could hear laughter. Some delegation celebrating something. Life going on as normal while her people faced the end. This was the Galactic Council. This was civilization. And Hyarin had never felt more alone in her entire life. Ambassador Jiwan had watched the entire proceeding from the observation gallery. As Earth's representative to the Galactic Council, she held observer status only. No voting rights. No official voice in council matters. Humanity had been part of galactic society for only 150 years. Too new and too primitive in the eyes of the elder species to be given full membership. She had seen many things during her 3 years as ambassador. Political maneuvering, trade disputes, territory arguments, but she had never seen anything like this. She had watched an entire species plead for their lives and be turned away by every single member of the council. Jiwan stood up from her seat, ignoring the curious looks from other observers in the gallery. She moved quickly through the corridors trying to catch up with the Valon ambassador. She had seen which way Hyarin had gone. She found her in a side hallway, sitting on the floor with her back against the wall. The Valon woman's skin was almost black and she was staring at nothing. She looked like someone who had lost everything. Ambassador Hyarin, Jiwan said softly, kneeling down beside her. I am Ambassador Jiwan from Earth. I watched what happened in there. I am so sorry. Hyarin looked up at her with eyes that seemed empty. Thank you, she said automatically, the words hollow. But sympathy does not save my people. No, it does not, Jiwan agreed. That is why I want to know what Earth can do to help. Hyarin let out a bitter laugh. Help? You heard what happened. 47 species with far more power and resources than Earth refused to help. Why would humans be any different? Why would you risk your political standing for a species you have never even met before? Jiwan sat down on the floor beside her. Because it is the right thing to do? That should be reason enough. The right thing, Hyarin repeated as if testing the words. I thought the Galactic Council was supposed to represent what was right. I was wrong. Tell me what you need, Jiwan said. Ships, technology? Refugee settlements? Tell me, and I will bring it to my government. High Aaron studied the human woman's face, searching for any sign of deception or false hope. You are serious. Completely serious. Your species has no voting power in the council, High Aaron said. If you help us, the other species will see it as interference. They could block Earth's path to full membership. They could impose trade restrictions. Your people could suffer because you helped mine. Then we will suffer, Jiwon said simply, but we will not watch 3 million people die when we have the power to prevent it. For the first time since the vote, color began to return to High Aaron's skin. A faint blue glow spread across her face. I do not understand. Your species barely knows mine. We have nothing to offer Earth in return. Why would you do this? Jiwon smiled. Because that is what humans do. We are stubborn like that. Now tell me everything. I need to make a report to my government, and I need to make it fast. High Aaron pulled out her datapad and began sharing information. The radiation levels on Vela Prime. The timeline before the planet became uninhabitable. The number of people who needed evacuation. The resources they had, which were very few. The technology they needed, which was extensive. Our scientist, Taeyang, has been working on possible solutions, High Aaron explained. But everything requires resources we do not have. Radiation shielding technology. Orbital platforms. Ships capable of evacuating millions. We have small transport vessels, but nothing nearly large enough for this scale. Jiwon recorded everything on her own device, asking questions and taking notes. When High Aaron finished, Jiwon stood up and offered her hand to help High Aaron to her feet. Go back to your quarters and rest, Jiwon said. I need to contact Earth Command immediately. This will take some time, but I promise you we will not abandon your people. I want to believe you, Aaron said quietly. But hope is dangerous when you have lost so much. Then let me hope for both of us, Jiwon replied. Just for now. 3 hours later, Jiwon sat in her private communication chamber, facing a screen that showed 5 faces. The Earth Defense Council. These 5 people had the authority to commit Earth's military resources to major operations. You understand what you are asking, said Admiral Park, a stern woman who commanded Earth's space forces. You want us to send a significant portion of our fleet to help an alien species we have no treaty with, no trade agreements with, and no strategic interest in. Yes, Jiwon said. That is exactly what I am asking. The political cost will be severe, said Minister Daeho, who managed Earth's diplomatic relations. The Council species already think we are too emotional, too impulsive. If we do this, we will confirm every negative opinion they have about humanity. Good, Jiwon said bluntly. Let them think we are emotional. Let them know that humans do not let innocent people die, because it is politically inconvenient. There was silence on the other end. Then Admiral Park spoke again, and there was something different in her voice. Something softer. Tell me about them. These Velans. Who are they? Jiwon pulled up images of Vela Prime, the silver forests, the purple oceans, cities that glowed with bioluminescent light. They are artists mostly. They create beautiful things. Music, sculpture, light displays that can last for hours. They are peaceful. They have never been involved in any galactic conflict. They just want to live. She pulled up more data. 3 million people. That includes 800,000 children. They have done nothing wrong. Their son is dying and they have no way to stop it. The council voted unanimously to let them die. Minister Daeho leaned forward. Show me the vote recording. Jiwon played the footage of High Aaron's plea and the cold responses from the council delegates. The council members watched in silence. When it ended, Admiral Park was the first to speak. How many ships would we need? At least 5, Jiwon said. Including the Indomitable. We need military vessels because they have the strongest reactors and the best shielding technology. We might be able to save them, but it will require sacrificing some of our own resources. Define sacrificing, said Minister Daeho. The radiation levels are extreme. We may need to use our ship's reactor cores to build orbital shields. That would mean stranding those vessels in the system. We would need to send recovery ships later. Another council member spoke up, a younger man named Junho. So we send our most powerful ships, possibly lose them, anger the entire Galactic Council, and gain nothing strategically. Is that the proposal? Yes, Jiwon said. Except we do gain something. We gain the knowledge that we saved 3 million lives. We gain the respect of being the species that stood up when everyone else turned away. Admiral Park looked at the other council members. I have heard enough. I am ready to vote. As am I, said Minister Deho. One by one, the council members voted. It took less than 5 minutes. The decision was unanimous. Earth would help the Valens. I will contact Captain Minho immediately, Admiral Park said. His fleet is the closest to Valen space. They can be underway within 12 hours. Make sure he knows the political situation, Minister Deho added. The council will not be happy about this. He will know, Admiral Park said, and there was a slight smile on her face. And knowing Minho, he will not care. The communication ended and Jiwon sat back in her chair, feeling a mix of relief and nervousness. She had just committed Earth to a mission that could have serious consequences. But when she thought about Hyeron's face, about those 800,000 children, she knew it was right. She opened a communication channel to Hyeron. Ambassador Hyeron, this is Jiwon, I have news. Hyeron's face appeared on the screen, her skin still a dull gray. That was fast. I assume your government said no? They said yes, Jiwon replied. We are sending 5 ships, including one of our most powerful military vessels. They will arrive at Vela Prime in 6 days. Hyeron stared at her, not speaking. Her skin began to change, shifting from gray to blue to a brilliant gold. Tears started flowing down her face. You are serious, she whispered. You are actually helping us. I told you, Jiwon said gently. That is what humans do. Hyeron covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. When she looked up again, her eyes were bright with tears and hope. I need to tell Taiyang. He needs to prepare. Oh, stars, we might actually survive this. You will survive, Jiwon said firmly. I promise you that. After ending the call, Jiwon sent one more message. This one went to Captain Minho directly. It was short and simple. 5 ships are not enough. Bring everything you have. The human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Valen system. Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the main view screen as Vela Prime came into view. Even from this distance, he could see the problem. The star at the center of the system was unstable, pulsing with irregular bursts of radiation. Status report, Minho ordered. Radiation levels are worse than the reports indicated, said Lieutenant Nari from the sensor station. They have increased by 15% in just the past week. At this rate, the planet will be uninhabitable in 60 days, not 90. Minho felt his jaw tighten. They had even less time than expected. Open a channel to Vela Prime. I want to speak with their lead scientist. A moment later, a Velan face appeared on the screen. The alien had blue skin that glowed softly, and large dark eyes that showed both hope and fear. This is Taiyang. Are you the humans? I am Captain Minho of the Earth vessel Indomitable. We are here to help. I need to meet with you and your team immediately. We have no time to waste. I will send you landing coordinates, Taiyang said, his skin brightening to a warmer blue. Captain, I must tell you, when Ambassador Hyeron told us humans were coming, many of us did not believe it. No species has ever offered to help us before, not even our neighbors. Well, humans are here now, Minho said, and we are not leaving until your people are safe. 2 hours later, Minho stood in a large room that had been converted into an emergency command center. Maps and data displays covered every wall, showing radiation patterns, population centers, and evacuation plans. Taiyang stood beside a large holographic projection of the planet, along with several other Velan scientists. Also present were Engineer Sunho from the Indomitable and Dr. Yunji, the fleet's medical officer. Show me everything, Minho said. Do not leave anything out, even if you think it is hopeless. Taiyang activated the display and the room filled with data. Our sun is collapsing faster than any natural model predicts. We think there might be an anomaly in the core, but we cannot get close enough to study it. The radiation storms hit us in waves, each one stronger than the last. He pointed to several glowing areas on the planet. We have moved most of our population underground. The cities on the surface are empty now, but our underground shelters can only protect us for so long. The radiation is penetrating deeper every day. Sunho, the human engineer, studied the data carefully. He was a quiet man who rarely spoke unless he had something important to say. Now he stepped forward, his eyes focused on the holographic sun. What about orbital shielding? Sunho asked. Have you considered building a radiation barrier in space? We considered it, Taiyang said, and his skin darkened slightly. But the scale required is beyond anything we can build. It would take years and technology we do not have. What if we use our ship's reactor cores? Sunho said, turning to Captain Minho. We could position them in orbit and link them together, create a network that redirects the radiation around the planet. Minho understood immediately what Sunho was suggesting. That would mean stranding our ships here. We could not leave without the reactors. Yes, Sunho agreed, but it might work. It would buy time to build a permanent solution. Taiyang looked between the two humans, his skin shifting through several colors as he processed what he was hearing. You would sacrifice your own ships? For us? If that is what it takes, Minho said. How long would we need to build this shield? Sunho pulled out his datapad and started calculating. With our 5 ships and Velan assistance, maybe 3 weeks. But that is optimistic. We would need to work around the clock and the radiation will make it dangerous. Dr. Yunji spoke up for the first time. I should start preparing medical facilities. Radiation exposure will be a problem for both our crews and the Velan workers. Do it, Minho ordered. Then he looked at Taiyang. Are you willing to work with us on this? Willing? Taiyang's skin turned bright gold. Captain, you are offering us hope. Of course we will work with you. Every engineer, every scientist, every person who can help will volunteer. Good, Minho said. Then let us get started. The next 2 weeks became a blur of constant activity. Human and Velan teams worked side by side, learning to communicate despite language barriers and different ways of thinking. The humans brought advanced technology and bold ideas. The Velans brought deep knowledge of their world and determination to survive. Sunho and Taiyang became an effective team. They would spend hours in the command center, arguing over designs and calculations. Sunho spoke in direct, practical terms. Taiyang thought in abstract patterns and artistic solutions. Together, they found approaches that neither could have developed alone. The problem is synchronization, Sunho explained one night, pointing at their latest design. We need all 5 reactors firing in perfect harmony. If even one is off by a microsecond, the whole shield collapses. Taiyang studied the problem, his skin pulsing with different colors as he thought. What if we do not fight the variation? What if we design the shield to flex and adapt, like music instead of a single note? Sunho looked at him, then back at the design. That could work. A dynamic shield that adjusts in real time. It goes against every standard protocol, but it might be exactly what we need. Meanwhile, Dr. Yunji set up medical stations throughout the construction sites. She worked with Velan doctors to understand their biology and how radiation affected them differently than humans. She discovered that while Velans were more sensitive to certain radiation types, they could also heal faster with the right treatment. Your bioluminescence is not just for show, she explained to a group of Velan medical staff. It is part of your cellular repair system. We can enhance it with these medications. She held up a container of medicine she had adapted from human treatments. This will help your bodies fight the radiation damage. It will not make you immune, but it will buy you time. The Velan doctors were amazed. They had never thought of their own biology in this way. Within days, the treatment was being distributed to all Velan workers on the construction sites. But not everything went smoothly. On the 14th day, the radiation storms intensified. A massive wave hit the planet, stronger than anything they had measured before. 3 Velan workers were caught outside during the peak, and 2 human engineers were also exposed. Dr. Yunji worked for 18 hours straight to save them. The Velans responded to her treatments, but the humans were in critical condition. One of them, a young engineer named Minji, might not survive. Captain Minho stood in the medical bay, watching Yunji work. Tell me the truth, will she make it? I do not know, Yunji said quietly. The exposure was severe. Her body is fighting, but it might not be enough. Taiyang appeared in the doorway. He had heard about the accident. His skin was dark with guilt. This is my fault. I should have predicted the storm would be that strong. No, Minho said firmly. This is no one's fault. This is why we are here, to take these risks so your people do not have to. But she might die, Taeyang said. She came here to save us, and she might die for it. Then we make sure her sacrifice means something, Minho replied. We finish the shield. We save your people. That is how we honor what she did. News of the accident spread through both the human and Velan teams. Instead of slowing down, everyone worked harder. They had seen the cost of failure. They understood what was at stake. Taeyang barely slept. He pushed himself and his team to solve every problem, to check every calculation 3 times. Sunho matched his pace, refusing to stop even when exhaustion made his hands shake. On the 18th day, they had a breakthrough. The shield design was complete. Not only would it work, but it would be more efficient than they had hoped. They could protect the entire planet with power to spare. We can start installation tomorrow, Sunho said, showing the final plans to Captain Minho. If everything goes right, the shield will be operational in 4 days. And if things go wrong? Minho asked. Then we adapt, Sunho said. That is what we do. That night, Minho visited the medical bay again. Minji was still unconscious, but her vital signs had stabilized. Dr. Yoonji looked exhausted but hopeful. She is going to make it, Yoonji said. It will be a long recovery, but she will survive. Minho felt tension he did not know he was carrying release from his shoulders. Good. That is very good. He looked around the medical bay. Several Valens were there too, being treated for various injuries and radiation exposure. Humans and Valens side by side, all fighting for the same goal. You know what I have learned these past 2 weeks? Minho said to Yoonji. We are not so different, humans and Valens. We both value life. We both fight for our families. We both refuse to give up. The council species could learn from that, Yoonji said. Maybe they will, Minho replied. After we show them what is possible. Outside, in orbit around Vela Prime, the pieces of the shield were being moved into position. 5 human ships, their reactor cores ready to be linked together in a web of protection. Hundreds of Velan and human workers coordinated every detail. The first test was scheduled for tomorrow. If it worked, Vela Prime would be saved. If it failed, they would have wasted precious time they could not get back. But looking at his crew, at the Velan teams, at everything they had built together, Minho believed. They would make it work. They had to. The shield test failed, not catastrophically, but enough to set them back by 3 days. 3 days they did not have. Captain Minho stood in the command center, watching the data scroll across the screens. The reactors had linked perfectly. The energy flow was stable, but when they activated the shield, it only covered 60% of the planet. The radiation still reached the poles, and those areas would become deadly within a week. Run the simulation again, Minho ordered. There has to be something we missed. Sunho and Taeyang worked together at the main console, adjusting variables and running calculations. They had been at it for 6 hours straight, and frustration showed on both their faces. The math is correct, Taeyang said, his skin flickering between blue and dark gray. The problem is we simply do not have enough power. We need a 6th reactor, or we need to find a way to boost the output of the 5 we have. We could overload the reactors, Sunho suggested. Push them beyond safe limits. For how long? Minho asked. Maybe 48 hours before they start to break down, Sunho said. And if one fails, the whole shield collapses. Minho rubbed his face, feeling the weight of 3 million lives pressing down on him. They were so close. They had worked so hard. And it still was not enough. A priority alert flashed on his communication device. A message from Earth Command. He stepped away to read it privately. The message was short and devastating. 3 Galactic Council species had filed formal protests against Earth's intervention. They were demanding that the human fleet withdraw immediately. The Council claimed that Earth was violating neutrality protocols and interfering in natural cosmic events. If Earth did not comply, there would be consequences. Attached to the message was intelligence that made Minho's blood run cold. The Council had sent covert operatives to the Velan system. They were here somewhere watching, and possibly doing more than just watching. He called a private meeting with his senior officers. Lieutenant Nari, Engineer Sunho, and Dr. Yoonji gathered in his ready room. We have a problem, Minho said, showing them the message. The council wants us gone, and they may have sent people to make sure we fail. Sabotage? Nari said, her eyes narrowing. You think someone deliberately damaged our shield? I think it is possible, Minho said. The math checked out. The design was solid, but somehow our output is 30% lower than it should be. Sunho stood up immediately. I need to inspect the reactors. All of them. If someone tampered with them, there will be evidence. Take a security team, Minho ordered. And Sunho, if you find anything, we cannot let the council know we know. Not yet. While Sunho went to investigate the reactors, Minho returned to the command center. Taeyang was still there, working on alternative solutions. The Veylan scientist's skin had turned a deep, dark blue, almost black. He looked defeated. We are running out of time, Taeyang said without looking up. Even if we solve the power problem, another major radiation storm will hit in 4 days. Our underground shelters cannot withstand it. We are going to lose people. We are not done yet, Minho said firmly. Keep working. There is always a solution. 3 hours later, Sunho returned with his report. His face was grim. Someone tampered with the reactor control systems on 3 of our ships. Subtle changes, hard to detect. Each reactor is operating at 75% capacity instead of full power. Can you fix it? Minho asked. Yes, but it will take time. At least 2 days, maybe 3. Time they did not have. The radiation storm was coming in 4 days, and they needed the shield operational before then. Minho made a decision. I am calling a meeting. Every team leader, human and Veylan. 1 hour from now. We need to show the galaxy what we found. The meeting room was packed. Dozens of faces, human and Veylan, all tired and worried. Captain Minho stood at the front, and beside him was evidence of the sabotage displayed on a large screen. 3 days ago, someone tampered with our reactors, Minho announced. We have evidence that Galactic Council operatives are responsible. They do not want us to succeed. They would rather let 3 million Veylans die than admit they were wrong. Angry murmurs spread through the crowd. Taeyang stood up, his skin flashing red, a color that meant rage among his people. They are here. In our system? Trying to kill us? Yes, Minho said. And I am going to show the galaxy what they did. He activated his communication device and connected to the galactic network. Every major news channel, every council species public channel, everything. Within seconds, he was broadcasting to billions of people across dozens of worlds. My name is Captain Minho of Earth. We came to the Veylan system to save a species that the Galactic Council abandoned. We have worked for 3 weeks alongside the Veylan people. We have sacrificed our ships, risked our lives, and committed everything we have to this mission, and now I have proof that Council operatives sabotaged our efforts. He showed the evidence on screen, the tampered control systems, the reduced power output, the timeline of when the changes were made. The Council did not just vote to abandon the Veylans, Minho continued. They actively tried to ensure their extinction. They sent people to sabotage our rescue mission. They are so afraid of being proven wrong that they would rather 3 million people die. He paused, letting his words sink in across the galaxy. But we will not let that happen. We will not give up. We will not turn back. The Veylans will survive no matter what the Council does to stop us. The broadcast ended. Within minutes, responses started flooding in. Outrage from civilian populations across multiple species. Demands for answers from Council representatives. Some species began calling for investigations and reforms. But there was also backlash. The Council formally declared that Earth was in violation of multiple regulations. Economic sanctions were threatened. Military action was mentioned as a possibility. Minho did not care. He had made his choice. Now we need to actually solve the problem, he said to his team after the broadcast. Sunho, how long to repair the sabotage? At least 2.5 days, Sunho said. The storm hits in 4 days, Taeyang added. Even if we repair everything and activate the shield, we only have 1.5 days to test it. What if something else goes wrong? The room fell silent. Everyone knew the truth. They were out of time and out of options. Then Sunho spoke quietly. There is one other solution. We could use the Indomitable itself. Everyone looked at him. Explain, Minho said. The Indomitable is our most powerful ship, Sunho said. Its reactor is twice as strong as the others. If we fly it directly into the radiation stream, we could create a temporary shield. Like a cork in a bottle, it would redirect the radiation away from the planet. For how long? Minho asked. 48 hours. Maybe 72 if we overload everything. Long enough for us to repair the sabotaged reactors and activate the orbital shield. And the ship? Dr. Yunji asked. What happens to the Indomitable? Sunho met her eyes. The radiation will destroy it, and whoever pilots it probably will not survive. The room erupted in protest. Veilon and human voices mixing together, all saying the same thing. It was too dangerous, too much sacrifice, there had to be another way. Minho raised his hand for silence. This is my decision to make. I am the captain. It is my ship. I will pilot the Indomitable. No, Sunho said immediately. Captain, you are needed here to coordinate everything else. I know the ship's systems better than anyone. I should go. You are needed to repair the other reactors, Minho countered. You are the only one who can fix the sabotage. They stared at each other, both unwilling to back down. Finally, Taeyang spoke up, his voice shaking. Stop, please stop. No one should have to do this. You have already given so much. You have already sacrificed your ships for us. We cannot ask you to sacrifice your lives too. Minho turned to him. You are not asking. We are volunteering. That is the difference. He looked around the room at all the faces watching him. Human and Valen, all together, all united in this impossible mission. Here is what we are going to do, Minho said. Sunho will lead the team to repair the sabotaged reactors. Work around the clock. Do not stop until it is done. Dr. Yunji will prepare medical teams for mass casualties in case the storm hits before we are ready. Taeyang will coordinate with the Valen government to move everyone to the deepest shelters possible. He took a breath. And I will take the Indomitable into the radiation stream. I will buy you the time you need. When the orbital shield is ready, activate it, even if I am still out there. Captain, Lieutenant Nari said, her voice breaking slightly. There has to be another way. There is not, Minho said gently. And we are out of time. Everyone to your stations. We launch in 6 hours. The meeting ended, but no one moved immediately. They all stood there looking at their captain, understanding what he was about to do. Finally, Taeyang approached him. The Valen's skin was glowing bright gold, the color of deep respect and gratitude. I do not know how to thank you, he said quietly. No words in my language are enough. Then do not thank me with words, Minho said. Thank me by surviving. By remembering. By building a future worth this sacrifice, he smiled. Besides, I might make it back. I am pretty stubborn. 6 hours later, the Indomitable separated from the orbital platform. Captain Minho sat alone in the command chair, his crew evacuated to other ships. The reactor was already overloading. 41 hours. That was how long Captain Minho held the Indomitable in the radiation stream. His ship, never designed for such punishment, somehow endured. The reactor should have failed after 24 hours. The hull should have melted after 30. But Minho kept adjusting, compensating, and refusing to let the ship die. Down on Vela Prime and on the other human ships, everyone worked without stopping. Sunho led teams of engineers who repaired the sabotaged reactors in record time. They worked in shifts, but Sunho never left. He pushed himself and his people beyond exhaustion, fueled by the knowledge that their captain was dying up there to buy them time. Taeyang worked alongside them, his Valen teams bringing supplies and solving problems the humans could not have anticipated. The two species learned to move as one unit, anticipating each other's needs, covering each other's weaknesses. Dr. Yunji ran between medical stations, treating everyone from radiation exposure to simple exhaustion. She had not slept in over 30 hours. When someone tried to make her rest, she simply said, "Our captain is dying for us. I can stay awake." On the 39th hour, the last reactor came back online. All 5 reactors fully powered, ready to link together. The shield could finally be completed. Shield is ready for activation, Sunho reported to Lieutenant Nari, who had taken command of the fleet. We can bring it online in 3 minutes. What about the captain? Nari asked. Can we get him out first? Sunho checked his instruments and his face fell. The Indomitable's engines are dead. Life support is failing. Even if we send a rescue ship, it would take at least an hour to reach him. Then we wait an hour, Nari said. We cannot, Taeyang interrupted, his voice breaking. The radiation storm is intensifying. If we wait, the reactors will be destroyed by the radiation before we can activate them. We will lose everything. Nari stared at the display showing the Indomitable, a tiny dot against the massive radiation stream. Inside that ship was her captain, her friend, the man who had led them through impossible situations for years. Her communicator chirped. Against all odds, it was Minho. His voice was weak and broken up by static, but unmistakable. Lieutenant Nari, I am reading. Shield ready. Captain, we can send a rescue ship, Nari said quickly. Just hold on for 1 more hour. No time. Minho's voice crackled. Storm, intensifying. Activate, shield, now. That is, an order. Sir, I cannot. Nari. His voice became clearer for a moment, stronger. 3 million people.
Do not let
my choice be wasted. Activate the shield. Tears ran down Nari's face. Around the command center, everyone was silent, listening. Many were crying too, human and Velan alike. It has been an honor, Captain, Nari said, her voice steady despite her tears. Activating shield in 30 seconds. Honor. Was mine, Minho replied. Tell them. Tell everyone, worth it. Every second, the 30 seconds felt like an eternity. Nari watched the countdown, her hand hovering over the activation control. Around her, the bridge crew stood at attention. On Vela Prime, 3 million Valans stopped what they were doing and looked up at the sky. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, activate. The 5 reactors fired in perfect synchronization. Energy flowed between them, creating a web of force that expanded around the entire planet. The shield blazed to life, a shimmering dome of protective energy that covered every inch of Vela Prime. The radiation storm hit the shield and was deflected away, streaming harmlessly into space. For the first time in months, the planet was safe, but in the heart of the storm, the Indomitable's signal went dead. The command center was silent except for the sound of people crying. They had won. The Valans were saved, but the cost was almost too much to bear. Then quietly, Sunho said, I am picking up a distress beacon. Very faint. It is the captain's personal emergency pod. Everyone froze. What? Nari said, rushing to the sensor station. Where? Drifting at the edge of the radiation stream, Sunho said, his fingers flying over the controls. The pod must have auto-launched when the ship's core breach was imminent. He is alive. The command center erupted in shouts and cheers. Get a rescue ship out there now, Nari ordered. I do not care if you have to strap an engine to a shuttle. Get our captain back. 37 minutes later, a rescue ship reached the escape pod and brought it aboard. Minho was badly injured, exposed to radiation levels that should have killed him, but he was alive and conscious. When they brought him to the medical bay, Dr. Yunji was waiting. She took one look at him and shook her head. You should be dead. Probably, Minho said with a weak smile. But I really wanted to see if we succeeded. We did, Yunji said, beginning her treatment. The shield is holding. Vela Prime is safe. Minho closed his eyes. Good, that is very good. He slipped into unconsciousness and Yunji went to work. She had treated many radiation cases during the mission, but nothing this severe. She worked for 7 hours straight, using every technique she knew and inventing new ones. The entire time, Valan doctors assisted her, sharing their knowledge of cellular regeneration. Finally, she stepped back from the medical bed. Minho's vital signs were stable. He would need months of recovery, but he would live. Taeyang, who had been waiting outside the medical bay, approached her. Will he recover fully? Eventually, yes, Yunji said, exhausted but smiling. He is too stubborn to do otherwise. 3 months later, Vela Prime had transformed. The shield still protected the planet, now reinforced with permanent structures built by multiple species. The temporary solution had become something better, something that would last for generations. The cities had come back to life. The silver forests were growing again. The purple oceans sparkled in the sunlight. And everywhere, Valans walked with their skin glowing in bright, joyful colors. In the main square of the capital city, a massive monument had been built. It showed human and Valan hands clasped together, carved from pieces of the Indomitable that had been recovered. The metal still showed scorch marks from the radiation, a reminder of what had been sacrificed. At the base of the monument, words were carved in both languages. When all others looked away, humanity stood with us. We are forsaken no more. Captain Minho, still recovering but able to walk with assistance, stood before the monument with Taeyang beside him. Around them, thousands of Valans and the human crew had gathered for the dedication ceremony. High Aaron, the Valan ambassador, spoke to the crowd. Her skin glowed bright gold as she addressed her people and the humans who saved them. 3 months ago, we were a species without hope, she said. The galaxy had abandoned us. We faced extinction and no one cared. But then humans arrived. Not because they had to. Not because they would gain anything. But because it was right. She turned to face Minho. Captain Minho, your species taught us something we had forgotten. That compassion is not weakness. That sacrifice for others is the highest form of strength. You did not just save our lives. You saved our faith in civilization. Minho stepped forward, though moving was still difficult. When he spoke, his voice carried across the square. We did not do this for glory or recognition, he said. We did it because when you strip away all the politics and power, we are all just people trying to survive in this vast universe. And people should help each other. It is that simple. He looked around at the crowd. The Galactic Council failed you, but individual species did not. After we exposed the sabotage, 7 different species sent aid. Supplies, technology, engineers. They acted on conscience, not council orders. That gives me hope. Taeyang stepped forward and offered his hand to Minho in the human gesture of respect. Our people will never forget what you did. We will tell this story for 1,000 generations. The day humanity stood with us. Minho clasped his hand. And we will tell our children about the Valens. About your art, your culture, your determination to survive. About how working together we achieved the impossible. The ceremony continued with music and celebration. Human and Valan children played together around the monument. Engineers from both species discussed future projects. Doctors shared medical knowledge. Friendships that would last lifetimes were being formed. Later that evening, Ambassador Jiwan sat with Hirin on a balcony overlooking the city. The sun was setting and the Valan cities began to glow with their natural bioluminescence. It was beautiful. The Galactic Council has requested a meeting with Earth, Jiwan said. They want to discuss reforming their charter. Several species are demanding changes. Will it work? Hirin asked. Can the Council actually change? I do not know, Jiwan admitted. But what I do know is that we proved something important. We showed the galaxy that there is a different way. That profit and power do not have to be the only values that matter. Hirin's skin shifted to a warm purple, the color of friendship. You know what the most interesting thing is? The Council told us we had no strategic value, that we were not worth saving because we could not benefit them. And now, Jiwan asked, now our artists are creating works that inspire people across dozens of species. Our scientists are sharing discoveries that help others. Our story is changing how the galaxy thinks about helping each other. Hirin smiled. Turns out we had value after all. They just could not see it because they were not looking. Back at the monument, Minho and Taeyang remained after most of the crowd had left.